How is married life? Is it everything you expected and more? What's going on?
Yeah, married life is it's fun. It's not the way we got married makes for a little bit of a different experience where you kind of, I don't want to say like slow down after things there, but we definitely like took our time to like get to know one another outside of the Love is Blind experiment. And we took time to travel, and we take time to like do the things that you do when you're dating that we didn't really get to do. So we spent, our 1 year anniversary was back in June, on June the 8th. So we spent a lot of time just spending our first year together, like we were dating, traveling, meeting friends, meeting family, doing all sorts of fun things, making sure we go on dates all the time and get to sort of integrate our lives together. And so that was kind of like the beginning. And now that we live together and things are kind of where you would maybe be after a year in a relationship, we're really settling into some of those things that you would see in like a traditional marriage, I guess.
Yeah. How would you say that your relationship and what you understood about each other has kind of evolved over time?
I think that's a great question. I think the big thing for us was realizing like the complementing that we do with one another. So, she's very extroverted, I'm very introverted. And we kind of like, I don't want to say it wasn't difficult like figuring that out, but it was sort of difficult like understanding what that means to each of us. And so I think for us, that was one of the most fun things to do, but it was also kind of surprising to say, for me to be able to say, I don't feel like doing anything today, or I want to do this, and her to be able to be like, it's okay that I like go out with my friends and you don't go, and just kind of like have those separate personalities, but also like combine them together. And sometimes we just stay in and watch a movie, or sometimes we stay in and cook, and then sometimes we go out with friends, or we go out together, or we go out with family. And just kind of like navigating that water, I think, was surprising because we just had totally different lifestyles beforehand.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the show back? Have you watched it back together at all?
What did we watch when it came out? We watched the first two episodes together, I think, and then she skimmed some of it. I watched the whole thing, which is funny because like I've never watched reality TV before, and this was very interesting to go through and watch season one before going on the show, and then to kind of watch it back.
Yeah. So watching it back, do you feel like you were portrayed as you are, or do you feel like there are some things that you're like, I don't feel like that's me?
Well, you got to keep in mind, there's hundreds and hundreds of hours, probably maybe hundreds of thousands of hours of this show. And I think we clocked in at like an hour and 14 minutes total that was covering our relationship. So there's definitely things that were left on the cutting room floor. There's definitely things that were there was a lot more context to, let's just say, that you didn't necessarily get to see in these little 2 maybe 3 minute vignettes that happen a couple times an episode at most. I know for me, I have this personal philosophy to just always be myself, act with integrity, be relevant, and do the right thing. And I was never concerned about being misportrayed because I'm just being me. But I would say, I think we messaged a little bit about this a while ago, like I have to laugh a little about the gossiping part, that people think I gossip, because it couldn't be further from the truth. I like always take myself and think to myself, and funny enough, we're just talking with Danielle about this yesterday when we were at lunch. I always look and I'm like, if I'm standing in a group of people that are gossiping, I'm in the wrong group. Like I want to go talk about ideas. I want to go talk about what's happening in the world. I want to talk about, how we change things, how we make things better, personal improvement, all of that kind of stuff. The stuff that really matters day to day. And what I was doing on the show with my friends, which, I'm still friends with, or at least keep in touch with most of them, is asking them serious questions because they were going to choose to get married or not. And when you don't get to see some of these conversations that you have, and then some commentary about it comes out, it's not necessarily the way people would think. But at the same time, like, people are going to think what they're going to think, and it doesn't really impact me because I know who I am, and I know, what's important to me and how I act in certain situations. But I just wanted everyone to think clearly about this. And I wanted, particularly like Shane was my friend, and he and I bonded in the pods, which you didn't really get to see any of that. We have a friendship to this day. And, I just wanted him to be very thoughtful about what was going on in his relationship. And I did that with everyone too, just trying to help everyone sort of think about what they're actually doing and not get caught up in this, this experience and this experiment, and then make irrational decisions.
So you said you're still in touch with Shane. Who else do you keep in touch with?
I keep in touch with, it ebbs and flows, right? Like there's times where a bunch of us will get together. I know Danielle keeps in touch with a lot of the women of the show pretty regularly, way more than I do. So I see them a lot in the times where we all hang out together. I keep in touch over social and, through technology with like Deep D and Natalie and Kyle and Sal. I was texting with Sal the other day. So, it just kind of depends, right? It's like all circumstantial, like what's happening, who's getting together. And, I'm, like I said, I'm kind of, I don't want to say a loner. I'm more of introverted person. So I don't get out and get as social as some of the other people do.
So I have to ask, is there anyone that you don't keep in touch with? And if so, why?
I bet you could probably guess that. I don't need to say the
Mhm.
name and give the leeway, but what I think is we all went through this experience together. We're all forever tied together in that way. And so whether I keep in touch, would consider someone a friend or an acquaintance, or, someone I would consider none of those things, like we're all sort of bonded or trauma bonded, or however you want to think about it, together. And we always will be. And so for that, like, I wish everyone nothing but the best. And it was a lot to go through. I don't think, you get to watch it, but you don't live it. You don't really understand what it's like to go through that extensive process in 7 weeks. And I think it kind of took all of us by surprise, and maybe put some of us through, a little bit of self-evaluation or no self-evaluation, but it really helped us sort of learn a little bit about ourselves. And that's a difficult thing to face sometimes, but I wish everyone nothing but the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Very political answer. So I also have to ask, right now the show's in a little bit of heat for the treatment of the contestants. Do you feel like you were fairly treated by the producers? And like, how was your experience actually being on the behind the scenes side?
So I'll say no comment
Okay.
on the lawsuit at this time, but maybe in the future we can talk about that. But in terms of being treated certain ways, everybody had their own unique experience with this. I, with Danielle, went through something that only Jarrett and Ayana and Lauren and Cameron and Amber and Matt Barnett went through. So ours it's always going to be different. And there's always going to be things that happen to some of us and not other of us. Do I always feel like we were treated the way we should have been? No, but I think I could say that about everything, right? But what I will say is that I think what we are seeing overall, and this is partially with the potential lawsuit, is we're seeing a lot of people come out and talk about how they were treated and how being on a reality show has impacted them. And I think what that needs to do is open up a larger conversation to what are we doing people at the expense of entertainment? And is that really something that we're doing in a proper way? I believe there's a space for reality TV, even though it's not always my cup of tea, but I don't think that space should tear people down in any kind of negative light. I don't think it should take away basic human rights. And if that proves to be the case here, then I think that's something that we as a society need to address.
So you and Danielle celebrated your 1 year recently. I think it was a few months ago. How did you guys
June the
celebrate?
8th. Yeah, June the 8th was our 1 year anniversary. We actually planned ourselves a very nice romantic dinner in downtown Chicago. That was just the two of us, spent a couple hours together, enjoying some good food and really treating ourselves to a nice evening together. And we kind of took the festivities on and spent the weekend together. And even, the funny thing is, like, we didn't really get a honeymoon. So like we start talking about, doing some of these things now that it's been over a year. So we spent a lot of time talking about, okay, what are we going to do over the next couple months, and plan some getaways and some vacations, and just really spending that time together. And that's what we like to do, and remind ourselves to have date nights and all of those things as well.
Yeah. So do you guys have any plans to start a family, or no pressure, but just curious?
We do plan to have a family at some point in the next few years, but again, it's like we're still getting to know each other in a sense, and we didn't get to have that couple of years of dating before we get married. We barely had a couple of weeks before we got married. So we're just kind of enjoying each other's company and continuing to integrate our lives with our friends and family. And when the time is right in the next few years, we'll be starting a family.
That's so exciting. And last question, I have to ask, are Kyle and Deepti dating?
I don't know. I mean, I'm completely honest. I have no idea. I guess we'll find out soon enough, right?
I guess so. All right. And is there anything else that you'd like to add that I didn't ask?
No, I just want to say to everyone out there that we appreciate all of your support. And, it's not easy being in the public light. It's not easy being recognized everywhere you go. And, you have so many people that we've met that have been wonderful. And I want to thank you all for that.